Question 1. An investor living in New York City purchases a municipal bond issued by the City of New York. Which of the following statements regarding the taxation of the interest income from this bond is true? A. The interest is exempt from federal income tax but subject to New York State and city income taxes. B. The interest is exempt from federal, New York State, and New York City income taxes. C. The interest is subject to federal income tax but exempt from New York State and city income taxes. D. The interest is subject to federal, New York State, and New York City income taxes. Answer: B. The interest is exempt from federal, New York State, and New York City income taxes. Interest income from municipal bonds is typically exempt from federal income tax. Additionally, if an investor purchases a municipal bond issued by a political subdivision within their own state and locality, the interest is often also exempt from state and local income taxes, leading to what is known as triple tax exempt status. In this scenario, a New York City resident buying a New York City bond would enjoy federal, state, and local tax exemptions on the interest, making the bond particularly attractive for high-income earners within that jurisdiction. Always remember that municipal bond interest is generally tax-exempt at the federal level, with further exemptions possible depending on where the bond is issued and where the investor resides. Question 2. A municipal bond's legal opinion is primarily concerned with confirming which of the following? A. The bond's market price stability. B. The issuer's financial strength and creditworthiness. C. The bond's validity, legality, and tax-exempt status. D. The expected yield to maturity for the bondholder. Answer: C. The bond's validity, legality, and tax-exempt status. The legal opinion, prepared by bond counsel, is a crucial document for municipal bonds, affirming that the bond issue is legally valid, properly authorized, and that the interest income is exempt from federal taxation. This opinion is essential for investors as it provides assurance regarding the bond's legitimacy and its attractive tax treatment. Without a clean legal opinion, investors would likely be hesitant to purchase the bonds due to uncertainties about their legal standing or tax status. Think of the legal opinion as the stamp of approval that verifies the bond's foundational integrity. Question 3. Which of the following municipal bonds is typically backed by the full faith and credit of the issuing municipality, supported by its taxing power? A. Revenue bond. B. Industrial development bond. C. General obligation bond. D. Certificate of participation. Answer: C. General obligation bond. General obligation, GO, bonds are a type of municipal bond secured by the issuer's pledge of its full faith and credit, meaning the issuer has the ability to levy taxes, like property taxes or sales taxes, to pay off the debt. This broad backing makes GO bonds generally considered less risky than revenue bonds, which are repaid only from the revenue generated by a specific project. Understanding this distinction is key to assessing the credit risk of different municipal bonds. A good way to remember is that general obligation implies a general commitment from the taxing authority. Question 4. An investor comparing a taxable corporate bond yielding 7% to a municipal bond yielding 5% should use which calculation to determine which offers a better after-tax return? A. Current yield. B. Yield to call. C. Taxable equivalent yield. D. Nominal yield. Answer: C. Taxable equivalent yield. To compare the after-tax return of a tax-exempt municipal bond with a taxable investment, an investor must calculate the taxable equivalent yield. This calculation adjusts the municipal bond's yield upward to determine what a taxable bond would need to yield to provide the same after-tax return, taking into account the investor's tax bracket. For example, if a muni yields 5% and the investor is in a 30% tax bracket, the taxable equivalent yield would be 5%/1 to 0.30 equals 7.14%, making it more attractive than the 7% corporate bond. This helps investors make informed decisions by putting all investments on an apples-to-apples after-tax basis. Question 5. The official statement for a new municipal bond issue would typically be provided to investors. A. Annually after the bond is issued. B. Only upon request from the underwriter. C. At or before the settlement date. D. After the bond has matured. Answer: C. At or before the settlement date. The official statement, OS, is the primary disclosure document for a new municipal bond issue, providing investors with essential information about the bond, the issuer, and the project. FINRA rules require that an official statement, if one is prepared, be delivered to purchasers of a new issue at or before the settlement date. This ensures investors have sufficient information to make an informed investment decision before they finalize their purchase. Think of it as the municipal bonds prospectus, containing all the key details. Question 6. All of the following are types of revenue bonds, except A. Industrial Development Revenue Bonds, IDRs. B. Special Assessment Bonds. C. Public Housing Authority Bonds, PHAs. D. School District Bonds. Answer: D. School District Bonds. School district bonds are typically general obligation bonds, backed by the taxing power of the school district, example property taxes, not by specific project revenues. Industrial Development Revenue Bonds, IDRs, Special Assessment Bonds, and Public Housing Authority Bonds, PHAs, are all specific types of revenue bonds, where debt service is paid from a particular revenue stream, example lease payments from industrial users, assessments on properties benefiting from an improvement, or rents from housing projects, respectively. Understanding the source of repayment is crucial for distinguishing between GO and revenue bonds. Question 7. The Municipal Securities Rulemaking Board, MSRB, regulates which of the following? A. Municipal issuers only. B. Municipal securities dealers, brokers, and municipal advisors. C. Only municipal bond underwriters. D. The secondary market for municipal bonds, but not the primary market. Answer: B. Municipal securities dealers, brokers, and municipal advisors. The MSRB is the self-regulatory organization, SRO, responsible for regulating the municipal securities market. It creates rules that govern the conduct of municipal securities dealers, brokers, and municipal advisors, ensuring fair and efficient practices in both the primary and secondary markets. However, the MSRB does not regulate the municipal issuers themselves. That responsibility typically falls to state and local governments. Remember, the MSRB focuses on the professionals who facilitate municipal securities transactions. Question 8. A municipal bond trader quotes a bond at 5.50 basis. This means the bond's yield to maturity is A. 5.5%. B. $5.50 per bond. C. 0.55%. D. 55.0 basis points. Answer: A. 5.5%. Municipal bonds are often quoted in terms of basis, which refers to the bond's yield to maturity. Therefore, a quote of 5.50 basis indicates that the bond's yield to maturity is 5.5%. This method of quoting allows investors to easily compare the return they can expect from different municipal bonds. Keep in mind that basis points are typically 1/100th of a percentage point, so 5.50 basis means 5.50 percentage points, not basis points. Question 9. Which of the following statements is true regarding the taxation of capital gains on municipal bonds? A. Capital gains on municipal bonds are tax-exempt at all levels. B. Capital gains on municipal bonds are generally subject to federal, state, and local taxes. C. Capital gains on municipal bonds are exempt from federal tax but subject to state and local taxes. D. Capital gains on municipal bonds are only taxable if the bond is held for less than 1 year. Answer: B. capital gains on municipal bonds are generally subject to federal, state, and local taxes. While the interest income from municipal bonds is typically tax-exempt at the federal level and sometimes at the state and local levels, any capital gains realized from selling a municipal bond for more than its purchase price are fully taxable. This means if you buy a municipal bond at $900 and sell it for $1,000, the $100 gain is subject to federal, state, and local capital gains taxes. This distinction between interest income and capital gains is crucial for understanding the full tax implications of municipal bond investments. Question 10. A short-term municipal note issued in anticipation of receiving future federal transit payments is known as a N. A. Tax Anticipation Note, TAN. B. Revenue Anticipation Note, RAN. C. Grant Anticipation Note, GAN. D. Bond Anticipation Note, BAN. Answer, C. Grant Anticipation Note, GAN. Grant Anticipation Notes, GANs, are short-term municipal notes issued in anticipation of receiving specific grant monies, typically from the federal government for specific projects. TANs are issued in anticipation of future tax receipts, RANs in anticipation of future revenue other than taxes, and BANs in anticipation of a larger bond issue. Understanding the specific revenue source that backs these short-term notes is key to identifying them correctly. Question 11. Which of the following is true concerning the call provision of a municipal bond? A. A callable bond is always called at par value. B. Issuers usually call bonds when interest rates are rising. C. Callable bonds typically offer a lower yield than comparable non-callable bonds. D. A call feature benefits the issuer, allowing them to refinance debt at lower rates. Answer, D. A call feature benefits the issuer, allowing them to refinance debt at lower rates. A call provision allows the issuer to redeem the bond before its stated maturity date, typically at a specified call price, which may be par or slightly above par. Issuers usually exercise this option when interest rates have fallen significantly, enabling them to refinance their debt at a lower cost, much like a homeowner refinancing a mortgage. Because the call feature introduces reinvestment risk for the investor, callable bonds generally offer a higher yield to compensate for this risk, making D the correct answer. Question 12. A municipal bond dealer would calculate accrued interest from the last interest payment date up to, but not including, the A. Settlement date. B. Maturity date. C. Call date. D. Issue date. Answer, A. Settlement date. When a municipal bond is traded, the buyer must pay the seller the bond's agreed-upon price plus any accrued interest. Accrued interest is calculated from the last interest payment date up to, but not including, the settlement date of the transaction. This ensures that the seller receives the portion of interest they have earned since the last payment, as the buyer will receive the full semi-annual interest payment on the next scheduled payment date. Remember that municipal bonds, like most bonds, typically pay interest semi-annually. Question 13. Which of the following would not be a primary source of repayment for a general obligation, GO, bond? A. Ad valorem taxes. B. Sales taxes. C. Revenue from a specific toll road. D. Property taxes. Answer, C. Revenue from a specific toll road. General obligation, GO, bonds are backed by the full faith and credit of the issuing municipality, which relies on its general taxing power, such as ad valorem, property, taxes, sales taxes, or other broad-based revenues. Revenue from a specific toll road, on the other hand, is a dedicated revenue source used to repay a revenue bond issued for that particular project. This distinction highlights the difference in security between GO and revenue bonds. Question 14. An individual subject to the Alternative Minimum Tax, AMT, might find the interest on which of the following municipal bonds to be taxable for AMT purposes? A. Public Housing Authority bonds, PHAs. B. New Housing Authority bonds, NHAs. C. private activity bonds, PABs, such as industrial development revenue bonds, IDRs. D. General obligation bonds. Answer: C. Private activity bonds, PABs, such as industrial development revenue bonds, IDRs. While most municipal bonds issue tax-exempt interest, certain municipal bonds known as private activity bonds, PABs, or industrial development revenue bonds, IDRs, may have their interest included as a tax preference item for investors subject to the alternative minimum tax, AMT. These bonds finance projects that primarily benefit private entities, and their tax-exempt status is often limited for high-income taxpayers to prevent perceived abuses. Always check if a municipal bond is subject to AMT if you might be in that tax situation. Question 15. The municipal bond underwriting process that involves the managing underwriter negotiating the terms of the offering directly with the issuer is known as A. Competitive bid. B. Negotiated offering. C. Standby underwriting. D. Best efforts offering. Answer: B. Negotiated offering. In a negotiated offering, the issuer selects a lead underwriter or underwriting syndicate and directly negotiates the terms of the bond sale, including the interest rate, maturity, and call features. This contrasts with a competitive bid, where various underwriting syndicates submit sealed bids to the issuer, and the bonds are awarded to the syndicate offering the best terms. Negotiated offerings are common for complex or specialized bond issues, while competitive bids are more typical for general obligation bonds. Question 16. A municipal bond with a par value of $5,000 and a coupon rate of 4% that is currently trading at a premium will have a current yield that is: A. Higher than its nominal yield. B. Lower than its nominal yield. C. Equal to its nominal yield. D. Not able to be determined without more information. Answer: B. Lower than its nominal yield. A bond trading at a premium means its market price is above its par value. The current yield is calculated by dividing the annual interest payment by the bond's current market price. Since the market price, denominator, is higher than par, the current yield will be lower than the nominal yield, coupon rate, which is based on par value. Conversely, if a bond trades at a discount, its current yield will be higher than its nominal yield. Question 17. The most significant factor influencing the marketability of a municipal bond is: A. The bond's coupon rate. B. The credit rating of the issuer. C. The current yield of the bond. D. The bond's time to maturity. Answer: B. The credit rating of the issuer. The credit rating of a municipal bond issuer, provided by agencies like Moody's or S&P, is the most significant factor impacting its marketability and the interest rate it must offer. A higher credit rating indicates a lower risk of default, making the bond more attractive to investors and allowing the issuer to borrow at lower interest rates. Investors prioritize the safety of their principal and timely interest payments, which are directly tied to the issuer's creditworthiness. Question 18. All of the following are typically characteristics of a municipal bond, except: A. Interest is generally exempt from federal income tax. B. Issued by state or local governments. C. Typically pay interest semi-annually. D. Backed by the U.S. government. Answer: D. Backed by the U.S. government. Municipal bonds are debt obligations of state and local governments or their agencies, not the U.S. government. While some specific types, like Public Housing Authority, PHA, bonds, might have an indirect federal guarantee, the general characteristic of municipal bonds is that they are obligations of state and local entities. They are known for their tax-exempt interest and usually pay interest every 6 months, just like many other bonds. Question 19. A municipal bond is quoted on a yield-to-maturity basis. This means the quoted price reflects the yield if the bond is held until: A. Its first call date. B. Its maturity date. C. Its next interest payment date. D. The end of the current fiscal year. Answer: B. Its maturity date. When a municipal bond is quoted on a yield to maturity, YTM, basis, the yield reflects the total return an investor can expect if they hold the bond until its maturity date, taking into account the purchase price, par value, coupon payments, and time remaining until maturity. This is the most common way municipal bonds are quoted and provides a comprehensive measure of return. If a bond is callable, the yield to call, YTC, might be quoted if it's lower than the YTM, but a general yield basis quote implies YTM. Question 20. The document that authorizes the issuance of a municipal bond and details the terms of the bond, such as interest rate, maturity date, and covenants, is known as the A. Feasibility study. B. Bond resolution or indenture. C. Official statement. D. Legal opinion. Answer: B. Bond resolution or indenture. The bond resolution, also known as the bond indenture, is the legal document enacted by the municipal issuer that authorizes the issuance of the bonds and specifies their features, including the par value, coupon rate, maturity date, and any protective covenants for revenue bonds. While the official statement provides disclosure and the legal opinion confirms validity, the bond resolution is the foundational legal document that formally creates the bond obligation. Think of it as the municipality's contract with its bondholders. Question 21. Which of the following statements is true regarding the taxation of Build America bonds, BABs? A. Interest on BABs is fully tax-exempt at all levels. B. Interest on BABs is subject to federal income tax, but the bondholder receives a federal tax credit. C. Interest on BABs is subject to federal income tax, and the issuer receives a federal subsidy. D. Interest on BABs is tax-exempt at the state and local level, but taxable at the federal level. Answer: C. Interest on BABs is subject to federal income tax, and the issuer receives a federal subsidy. Build America bonds, BABs, were a special category of taxable municipal bonds created under the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act of 2009 to help state and local governments finance capital projects. Unlike traditional municipal bonds, the interest paid to investors on BABs was fully taxable at the federal level. However, to incentivize their issuance, the U.S. Treasury subsidized a portion, typically 35%, of the interest payments made by the municipal issuer. While BABs are no longer issued, the concept can still appear on exams, so remember they were a taxable municipal bond from the investor's perspective, with a federal subsidy for the issuer. Question 22. A bond issue with a structure where a portion of the debt matures sequentially each year is known as A. Term bond issue. B. Serial bond issue. C. Callable bond issue. D. Sinking fund issue. Answer: B. Serial bond issue. A serial bond issue is characterized by having different portions of the bond issue mature on different, successive dates. This structure allows the issuer to pay back the principal gradually over time. In contrast, a term bond issue has all bonds maturing on the same date, often repaid through a sinking fund. Understanding these structures helps distinguish how different bond issues are repaid. Question 23. A municipal bond with a net direct debt calculation would primarily be referring to the debt of A. Revenue bond issuer. B. Industrial development bond issuer. C. General obligation bond issuer. D. Public housing authority bond issuer. Answer: C. General obligation bond issuer. Net direct debt is a financial metric used primarily in the credit analysis of general obligation (GO) bonds. It represents the total debt of a municipality minus any debt that is self-supporting, example from a utility that generates its own revenue, and sinking fund accumulations. This calculation provides insight into the issuer's overall debt burden that is directly supported by its taxing power, making it a crucial factor for GO bond investors. This metric is not relevant for revenue bonds, which are repaid by specific project revenues. Question 24. Which of the following characteristics best describes a municipal bond that has been pre-refunded? A. The issuer has defaulted on its debt payments. B. The bond's principal and interest payments are secured by an escrow account holding U.S. government securities. C. The bond has been called by the issuer at a premium. D. The bond is nearing its original maturity date. Answer: B. The bond's principal and interest payments are secured by an escrow account holding U.S. government securities. Pre-refunding occurs when an issuer issues new bonds at a lower interest rate to repay existing, higher coupon bonds before their maturity or call date. To do this, the proceeds from the new bonds are placed into an escrow account and invested in U.S. government securities, which are then used to pay the debt service on the old bonds. This makes the pre-refunded bonds highly secure, often leading to a higher credit rating, as they are backed by the full faith and credit of the U.S. government. Question 25. An investor who sells a municipal bond in the secondary market at a discount to its original issue price will experience which of the following? A. A tax-exempt capital gain. B. A taxable capital gain. C. A tax-deductible capital loss. D. A tax-exempt capital loss. Answer: C. A tax-deductible capital loss. While the interest income from municipal bonds is tax-exempt, capital gains and losses realized from selling municipal bonds in the secondary market are generally taxable. If an investor sells a municipal bond for less than its adjusted cost basis, they will incur a capital loss. This capital loss can be used to offset capital gains or, with certain limitations, deducted against ordinary income, making it a tax-deductible capital loss. Remember, capital gains and losses on municipal bonds are treated like those on any other security for tax purposes.